Ethan was a human soldier who never liked to give up, even when things looked hopeless. His ship had been shot down during a big battle far from Earth, and he crashed alone on a strange planet. When he woke up, he felt sore all over, but he was alive. Smoke still rose from his ship, and the air was cold and heavy. He checked his suit for damage and took a few deep breaths before looking around. The planet was covered with thick blue and green forests, and the sky had a soft purple shade. The sounds were different from Earth, full of birds and animals he did not know. Ethan knew he had to find shelter and food before night came. He took what supplies he could from the ship, a small bag with water, some rations, a toolkit, and a flashlight. Then he walked into the forest, always alert for danger. As he moved deeper into the woods, Ethan found signs that someone or something had lived here before. He saw broken statues, strange metal shapes covered in moss and old paths, almost hidden by plants. After many hours, when he started to feel tired and hungry, he found something that surprised him. In a hidden valley, there was a huge palace built from silver stones and glass, shining in the fading light. It looked empty and lonely, but still strong. Ethan walked carefully toward the palace, not sure if it was safe. The doors were half open and a cold wind moved through the halls. Inside, everything was quiet. Dust floated in the air, and most of the lights were broken. He called out, but no one answered. He could hear his own footsteps echoing as he walked from room to room. In the main hall, he found an old robot standing. Still, the robot's eyes blinked slowly when it saw Ethan. It spoke in a soft voice, saying, "Who are you? Why have you come?" Ethan answered that he was lost and needed help. The robot did not move, but told him to wait. After a few minutes, the robot turned and rolled away, leaving Ethan alone. Ethan followed the robot down a long hall. At the end was a large room filled with light from broken windows. In the middle of the room, lying on a floating chair, was an alien princess named Lara. She had pale blue skin and long white hair. Her eyes were bright and sharp, but her legs did not move. She looked at Ethan with a mix of fear and surprise. The robot said, "Princess, this is a human who has crashed here. He says he needs help." Lyra spoke slowly and carefully. She asked Ethan how he came to this place and what he wanted. Ethan explained his story, how his ship was hit, how he escaped, and how he had been searching for help. Lyra listened, but said nothing for a long time. Finally, Lyra said, "There are not many people left here. My family is gone, and the palace is almost empty. The machines take care of me, but I cannot leave this room." She looked sad, but her voice stayed calm. Ethan saw that she was trying to be strong, even though she was alone and could not walk. Ethan told her he was good at fixing things and asked if he could help with anything in the palace. Lyra nodded and asked him to look at the broken machines that helped run the palace. She said that after the attack, many machines stopped working and she could not fix them alone. For the next few days, Ethan worked hard. He used his tools to repair the palace's lights, fix the broken doors, and get some old robots working again. He even managed to repair the food system, which started making simple meals for both of them. As he worked, he talked to Lyra and told her stories about Earth and his life as a soldier. She listened closely, sometimes asking questions, sometimes just smiling quietly. One night, Ethan saw that Lyra looked worried. She asked him why he was being so kind to her, even though he was a stranger on her planet. Ethan told her that on Earth, people help each other when they can, and that he did not want to leave anyone alone if he could help. Lyra seemed touched by his words. Slowly, Lyra started to trust Ethan. She told him about her life before the attack, about her family and her dreams. She had wanted to travel the stars, but after her injury, her people thought she could not lead them anymore. They left her in the palace with only machines for company. Lyra felt forgotten and useless. Ethan tried to cheer her up. He told her about famous humans who had lost much but still found ways to help others and live good lives. He talked about hope and the strength people can find even when things look bad. Lyra listened, and a little light came back into her eyes. Ethan noticed that Lyra was smart and brave in her own way. She knew a lot about her world and its history. She could not walk, but she controlled many machines with her voice and mind. Together they fixed more of the palace, making it safer and warmer. Ethan found a hidden room full of old books and read them to Lyra at night. The days passed quietly, but Ethan felt less alone now. He and Lyra shared meals and laughed at small jokes. Sometimes he would carry her outside so she could feel the sun and see the stars. Lyra said she had not been outside since the attack, and she thanked Ethan for helping her. One evening, while the wind blew gently through the open windows, Lyra told Ethan something important. She said, "I do not want to be alone anymore. I want to live, not just survive." Ethan nodded and said he understood. He promised to stay and help her for as long as he could. Deep down, Ethan felt something changing. He was not just a lost soldier anymore. He was someone who could make a real difference for another living being. As he watched the stars with Lyra beside him, he wondered what would happen next. But for the first time since he crashed on the planet, he felt hope. Ethan woke up early the next morning. He could hear the sound of the old machines moving through the palace halls. He rubbed his eyes and stretched. Sometimes he forgot he was far from Earth. The room where he slept was once part of the palace's guest wing. Now it was mostly empty with broken furniture and dust, but it felt safer than sleeping outside. As Ethan got ready for the day, he thought about the strange feeling of living in the alien palace. Every wall and window looked different from what he knew. The air inside was cool and smelled faintly of sweet flowers. He walked down the long hallways, listening to the quiet. Sometimes he wondered how many people had once lived here and what had happened to them. Ethan found Lyra in her usual room, where she floated above the floor in her special chair. She smiled when she saw him. She always tried to be brave, but Ethan could see the sadness in her eyes. He greeted her and asked if she slept well. Lyra said she had not slept much, but she was glad to see him. They shared a small breakfast together. The food was simple, made by the machines, but it was enough. While they ate, Lyra told Ethan more about her people. She said that the planet had once been full of life and color. There had been music, festivals, and laughter. After the attack that left her paralyzed, everything changed. The people became afraid. Many left the city and never returned. Ethan listened carefully. He could feel how lonely Lyra was. She had spent so many months in the palace with only robots to talk to. Even though she could not walk, she still wanted to help her people. But her council did not listen to her anymore. They thought she was weak. Ethan wanted to help her, but he was not sure how. After breakfast, Ethan went to check the palace's systems. He fixed a broken light in the hallway and managed to get one of the kitchen robots working again. While he worked, he found some old drawings and pictures hidden in a box. They showed Lyra as a child, running and playing with her family. He brought the pictures to Lyra, hoping they would cheer her. Lyra held the pictures gently. She smiled at the memories, but her eyes filled with tears. She told Ethan that her mother had always told her to be strong, no matter what happened. Lyra said she tried her best, but some days it was hard to keep going. Ethan sat beside her and told her about his own family back on Earth. He spoke of his younger brother who had been very sick, but had never lost hope. Ethan said that hope was the most important thing a person could have done. As the day passed, Ethan and Lyra spent more time together. They talked about their different worlds. Ethan told Lyra about Earth cities, rivers, and mountains. He described what it was like to swim in the ocean and to walk through a crowded market. Lyra listened closely and sometimes laughed at the strange things humans did. In return, Lyra taught Ethan some words in her language. She showed him the palace garden, where strange blue flowers grew, even without sunlight. One afternoon, while Ethan worked in the garden, he heard a sudden noise. He turned and saw a small group of animals running from the trees toward the palace. He realized that they were searching for food. Ethan watched them for a while and noticed that the palace's outside defenses were almost all broken. He knew that if bigger animals or even people tried to come inside, Lyra would not be safe. Ethan told Lyra about the problem. Together they made a plan to fix the outside defenses. Ethan worked hard for many hours, repairing wires and moving heavy parts. Lyra helped by guiding him through the palace's computer system. She could control some of the robots with her voice. She was clever and quick, and Ethan was surprised by how much she still could do. Even though she could not walk. After several days of work, the palace felt safer. The lights came back on in the gardens, and the doors would now close quickly. If there was danger, Lyra thanked Ethan for helping her. She said she had not felt safe for a long time. Ethan told her he was happy to help and that he did not like seeing anyone alone or afraid. One night, while they were looking out at the stars, Lyra asked Ethan if he missed his home. Ethan was quiet for a moment. He told her that he did miss Earth, but that helping her made him feel less alone. He said he did not know if he would ever see his family again, but he would rather do something good than give up hope. Lyra said she understood. She told Ethan that her people once believed in strong leaders who could protect everyone, but now she felt she was only a burden. Ethan shook his head and told her that she was not a burden. He said she was stronger than she thought because she never gave up, even when everything seemed lost. The next morning, Lyra showed Ethan a special room deep inside the palace. It was full of old technology and records from her people. Some of the machines had not worked for many years, but Ethan was curious. He spent hours looking at the strange devices and reading old notes. He realized that some of this technology could help Lyra get better, or at least make her life easier. Ethan asked Lyra if she wanted to try using the machines to help with her injury. At first, Lyra was scared. She said the doctors who once tried to help her only made her feel worse. But Ethan promised he would go slowly and not let anything hurt her. Together they turned on a small healing device. It made a gentle sound and sent warm light over Lyra's legs. She said it felt strange, but not painful. Over the next few days, they tried the healing machine a little at a time. Lyra could not feel her legs yet, but she said her pain was less, and she felt more comfortable. She thanked Ethan for giving her hope again. During this time, Ethan found ways to bring small joys back to Lyra's life. He told her stories every night, sometimes making her laugh with silly tales about earth animals. He also taught her simple human games like tic-tac-toe, which they played with pebbles and leaves. Sometimes Ethan would play music from his small device, and Lyra would listen quietly, smiling as the notes filled the room. Slowly, the palace started to feel alive again. The machines worked, the gardens grew brighter, and Lyra smiled more. Often, Ethan felt proud of the changes he had helped make. He also noticed that he and Lyra had become good friends, sharing both happy and sad moments. One day, while they sat in the garden, Lyra told Ethan about her biggest fear. She said she worried that her people would never accept her as their leader again. She was afraid her family's line would end with her because she could not have a child on her own. Ethan listened, feeling sad for her. He wanted to say something that would help, but he did not know how. As the sun set and the sky turned deep purple, Ethan promised Lyra that he would stand by her side for as long as she needed him. He said that together, maybe they could find a new way forward. Lyra nodded, her eyes full of hope for the first time in many months. Days passed quietly in the palace. Ethan and Lyra worked together every day, making the palace a little better and safer. The machines were working now, and the garden was full of blue flowers and strange glowing plants. At night they sat outside, watching the stars and talking about their lives. Ethan felt like he belonged here, even though he missed Earth sometimes. One morning, Lyra seemed quiet. She looked out the window, her hands resting on her lap. Ethan asked if something was wrong. Lyra shook her head at first, but then she said there was something she needed to talk about. She asked if they could sit in the garden, where it was peaceful. They went outside, and Ethan helped Lyra get comfortable in her floating chair near the flowers. Birds sang in the trees, and a soft wind moved through the air. For a while, they said nothing. Then Lyra began to speak. She told Ethan about her people's traditions. She explained that in her world, the royal family had to continue, so there would always be someone to guide the people. But now, many believed Lyra was unfit to rule or to have children because of her injury. Some of the council had even said it would be better if she stayed hidden in the palace forever. Lyra looked down, her voice soft. She said she wanted a child, but she knew that no one from her own world would accept her now. Her people were afraid of weakness and change. They wanted their leaders to be strong and perfect, and they did not see that Lyra was still strong. Inside, she said she had thought about this for many months, alone in the palace. Ethan listened closely. He could see how much it hurt Lyra to talk about this. She seemed more sad and tired than ever before. Ethan wanted to say something, but he was not sure what to say. He told her that being strong did not always mean having a perfect body. Sometimes strength came from hope, kindness, and never giving up. Lyra smiled a little at his words. She said that in her heart she wanted to believe him. She had seen how brave and gentle Ethan was, even though he was a stranger from another world. Lyra said she had a question for Ethan, but she was afraid to ask it. She worried that he might laugh or turn away from her. Ethan promised he would listen and never laugh at her. He said that after all they had been through together, he was her friend and he would not leave her. Lyra took a deep breath. She looked Ethan in the eyes and asked, "Will you help me? Will you be the father of my child? I want someone kind, someone brave, someone who will help me give hope to my people." Again. Ethan was silent for a long time. He had never expected this. He knew Lyra cared about him, and he cared about her too. But this was something big, something that could change both their lives forever. He thought about what it would mean to be the father of a child from another world. He thought about what people on Earth might say, and what Lyra's people would think. He looked at Lyra, sitting quietly in her chair, waiting for his answer. He saw how much courage it took for her to ask him this. Ethan knew she was lonely, and wanted to bring hope back to her people. He also knew that Lyra was kind, wise, and strong in ways her people did not see. Ethan told Lyra he needed time to think. He said it was a big decision and that he wanted to make sure it was right for both of them. Lyra nodded, understanding. She said she would not force him, and she thanked him for listening. That night, Ethan could not sleep. He walked through the halls of the palace, thinking about everything that had happened since he crashed on this planet. He remembered the first time he saw Lyra alone and afraid. He remembered how they had worked together to fix the palace and how they had shared their stories and hopes. He realized he cared about her deeply, not just as a friend, but as someone who had become a part of his life. The next morning, Ethan sat with Lyra in the garden. He told her that he had thought about her question. He said that he wanted to help her, but he also wanted them to understand each other better first. He wanted to be sure that they could face whatever would come together. Lyra agreed. She said that she did not want a child just for duty. She wanted a real family with love and trust. From that day, Ethan and Lyra started to learn more about each other's cultures and dreams. Ethan shared stories about families on Earth, about how people supported each other in hard times. He told her about human games, and they played together in the garden. Lyra taught Ethan the meaning of the stars in her sky, and she showed him old stories from her people's past. Sometimes she even laughed and smiled like a child. As they grew closer, Ethan saw that Lyra was changing too. She became less afraid of her future. She began to hope again. She showed Ethan a secret room in the palace, filled with ancient books and treasures. Together they read the old stories and learned about the history of Lyra's people. Some stories were about peace, others about war, but all of them spoke of hope and courage. One afternoon, while they were reading, the palace's alarms sounded. Red lights flashed in the halls. Ethan jumped to his feet and ran to check the security screens. He saw a group of rebels outside the palace gates. They were shouting and trying to break in. Ethan realized they wanted to take over the palace and hurt Lyra. Ethan acted fast. He ran to the control room and turned on the palace's defenses. Lyra used her voice to command the robots and close the doors. Together they watched as the rebels tried to force their way inside. Ethan grabbed a weapon from the storage room and prepared to defend the palace if the rebels broke through. The attack lasted for hours. The rebels threw rocks and fired strange energy weapons at the walls. Some of the robots were damaged, and part of the garden was destroyed. But Ethan did not give up. He fought bravely, fixing the defenses and protecting Lyra at every turn. Lyra stayed calm, guiding the machines and helping Ethan with her knowledge of the palace. Finally, The rebels gave up and ran away into the night. The palace was damaged, but it still stood strong. Ethan was tired and bruised, but he felt proud. He had protected Lyra, and together they had shown great courage. After the attack, Lyra thanked Ethan for saving her. She said she had never felt safer, even though the danger was not over. Ethan told her that he would always stand by her side. They held hands for a moment, feeling closer than ever before. In the days that followed, they repaired the palace and the garden. Lyra's trust in Ethan grew even stronger. She told him that she still hoped he would be the father of her child, but she would wait as long as it took. Ethan promised he would not leave her and that they would face the future together. They did not know what would happen next, but they both felt hope in their hearts. Together they watched the stars and dreamed of a new future, one where they would not be alone. Days after the attack passed slowly, but Ethan and Lyra found new strength in each other. The palace was quiet, with the sounds of birds returning to the garden. The broken walls and doors were reminders of the danger they faced, but also of their courage and teamwork. Ethan worked long hours fixing what he could. Sometimes he struggled with machines that were older than any human technology he knew, but Lyra's voice guided him. Together they learned how to repair things that once seemed impossible. As they worked, Ethan saw Lyra's spirit growing. Stronger, she was more hopeful and laughed more often. Sometimes they sat together under the blue trees in the garden, talking about their dreams. Ethan told her about his wish to see Earth again one day, maybe even show her the blue oceans and green forests of his home. Lyra smiled at the thought. She said she wanted to fly among the stars, to see new worlds and learn new things. One morning, Lyra showed Ethan another secret room deep under the palace. It was dark and cold at first, but when she used her voice to activate the old machines, the walls lit up with gentle lights. Inside, there were paintings, music, and stories recorded by her ancestors. Lyra told Ethan that few people had ever seen this room. She said it was a place of memory and hope. Ethan felt honored that she trusted him enough to share this with him. In the secret room, Lyra found a small silver box. She opened it and showed Ethan what was inside. It was a collection of tiny stars, made from glass and silver, each one shining with its own light. Lyra explained that these stars were symbols of dreams and promises. Her people believed that if you gave a star to someone, you were sharing a hope for the future. Lyra took one of the stars and handed it to Ethan. He held it carefully, feeling its warmth in his hand. He promised Lyra that he would never give up on hope. No matter what happened after their visit to the secret room, Ethan and Lyra grew even closer. They shared their fears and wishes without shame. Ethan told Lyra about the war on Earth and how many people had lost hope. He said that meeting her, helping her, had made him believe that life could change for the better. Lyra listened and told Ethan she felt the same. She said she wanted to help her people find hope again, even if she could not lead them the way they expected. The palace felt more alive now. Flowers bloomed in the garden and light filled the halls. Ethan and Lyra played simple games together, like drawing pictures in the sand or making up stories about the stars. They laughed at silly jokes and shared quiet moments in the sun. Sometimes, Ethan would carry Lyra outside so she could feel the wind and see the sky without walls around her. Lyra said those moments were her favorite. One afternoon, Ethan noticed something strange on the palace's security screens. A small group of aliens was approaching the main gate. They were not rebels, but they looked tired and scared. Ethan and Lyra watched as the group stopped at the gate and called out for help. Lyra recognized some of them. They were council members who had once advised her family. Lyra asked Ethan to bring them inside. When the council members entered the palace, they looked surprised to see Lyra, and even more surprised to see a human with her. The oldest council member spoke first. He said they had heard rumors of a human helping the princess and that the palace was safe again. They had come to see if it was true. Lyra welcomed them and explained how Ethan had saved her life and helped rebuild the palace. She told them about the attack and how they had fought together to protect her home. The council listened closely. Some looked worried, but others seemed impressed by Ethan's courage and skill. Lyra said she wanted to work with Ethan to create a new future for her people. The council spent several days in the palace. They watched as Ethan fixed machines, helped Lyra with daily tasks, and cared for the garden. They asked him questions about Earth and about humans. Ethan answered honestly, always showing respect for their ways. Slowly, some council members began to trust him. During this time, Lyra and Ethan faced new challenges. One night, the council's leader asked Lyra about her future. He said the people needed hope and a new beginning. Lyra spoke bravely. She told them she still wanted to lead even if she could not walk. She said that strength was not just in the body, but also in the heart and mind. She told the council that Ethan had shown her how to believe in herself again. The council talked for many hours. Finally, they said they would support Lyra if she could show them a real path to hope. They wanted to see proof that she could bring change and a new future. Lyra promised she would try. One morning, as the sun rose over the palace, Lyra called everyone to the main hall. She wore a blue dress, and Ethan stood beside her. She told the council and the workers that she wished to start a new family, not just for herself, but for all her people. Lyra turned to Ethan and asked him, in front of everyone, if he would be the father of her child. She promised that if he said yes, she would make him her partner and share all the duties and dreams of her life. The room was silent. Some council members looked shocked, others thoughtful. Ethan looked at Lyra, seeing her courage and hope shining in her eyes. He took her hand and said that he would be honored to stand by her side and help her build a new future. He said he believed in her, and together they could do anything. The news spread quickly. People from nearby villages came to see if the stories were true. Many were surprised to see a human standing with the princess. Some were afraid, but others were curious and hopeful. Ethan met many new faces and tried to learn their names and customs. He helped with repairs and showed children how to play simple games from Earth. As days passed, more people began to trust Ethan and Lyra. The garden filled with visitors and music played once again in the palace halls. Lyra and Ethan stood together, sharing their dream for a better future. They worked to rebuild the city and help those in need. For the first time in a long time, hope grew in the hearts of Lyra's people. One evening, after everyone had gone to sleep, Lyra and Ethan sat together under the stars. Lyra held the silver star Ethan kept in his pocket. She smiled and said she believed they could build a life together, one full of hope and love. Ethan agreed, and they promised to face every challenge side by side. As they looked at the sky, Ethan felt at peace. He knew there would be many hard days ahead, but he was not afraid. With Lyra beside him, he was ready to build a new world, one where no one had to be alone again. The days after the council's visit were busy and hopeful. Ethan and Lyra worked side by side to rebuild the city outside the palace walls. People from nearby villages came to help. They brought food, tools, and seeds for new gardens. Ethan showed them simple human farming methods, and Lyra used her voice to guide the machines that planted new trees and flowers. One morning, Lyra woke to find a group of children waiting outside her door. They held small gifts, bright stones, painted flowers, and wooden toys. They bowed and said, "Thank you for saving their home." Lyra's heart swelled with warmth. She lifted her chair so she could be closer to them, and she smiled as they told her their names. Ethan watched, proud of how Lyra's kindness had touched their hearts. As more people arrived, some still doubted the idea of a human as part of their royal family. A few council members whispered that a stranger could not truly understand their ways. They worried that Lyra would lose her heritage. Ethan knew this worry came from fear, not hate. He decided to meet with those council members quietly, to listen and learn what mattered to them. In a small room near the palace garden, Ethan welcomed two council members named Roland and Claire. They spoke about traditions, customs, and the duty of a princess to protect her people. Ethan listened without interrupting. When they finished, he spoke softly about his respect for their culture. He said he came as a friend, ready to learn and to serve. Roland and Claire looked at each other, then at Ethan, and nodded. They began to see that he truly cared. Back in the palace, Lyra worked with the healers to continue her treatments. The healing machine still hummed gently each day, and Lyra's pain grew less. She could now move her toes and feel some warmth in her legs. The healers were amazed by the progress. They said that with time, she might walk with a brace. Lyra's eyes shone with hope. She thanked Ethan for staying by her side, and he smiled. Knowing she deserved every chance to heal. One afternoon, Lyra and Ethan visited the new gardens outside the city. The green fields and bright flowers stretched as far as they could see. Workers moved in rows, planting vegetables and trees. Children ran through the paths, laughing as they chased butterflies. Lyra felt tears of joy. She had not seen such life and color for a long time. As they walked, Lyra held Ethan's hand. She said she wanted to introduce him properly to her people, to show that he was not just a guest, but a partner. Ethan agreed. They planned a festival to celebrate new life and the future. Lyra asked each council member to bring a gift that represented hope. Ethan helped organize music, dance, and shared meals from both their worlds. On the day of the festival, the city square filled with people. Bright banners flew in the wind, and tables held foods from Earth and from Lyra's planet. Music played on strange instruments, and dancers moved in colorful clothes. At the center, Lyra sat in her chair beside Ethan. She wore a simple white dress, and her hair was braided with blue flowers. Ethan stood tall in his Earth uniform, though. He felt more at home in simple clothes. Lyra spoke to the crowd without raising her voice. She thanked everyone for helping rebuild their home. She told them that hope could grow again, like the gardens they planted together. Then she turned to Ethan and asked him, once more, to stand with her as the father of her child. She said she wanted their families to be one, so they could share both worlds' dreams. The crowd held its breath. The council members exchanged glances, then smiled. Roland stepped forward with a small glass star, the symbol of promise from Lyra's people. Claire joined him with a seed from the first garden they planted. They placed the star and the seed. In Lyra's hands, she looked at Ethan and then to the people. Ethan knelt and said he would be honored to help parent a child who would unite their worlds. Cheers rose from the crowd. People clapped, danced, and sang. Lanterns lit the night sky, floating upward like tiny stars. Lyra and Ethan embraced, feeling the warmth of their people's joy. For the first time, both alien and human found common ground in celebration. After the festival, life returned to a calm routine. The gardens grew, the city repaired, and Lyra's health improved with each passing day. Ethan continued to learn more about her culture and taught music and art to the children. Lyra and Ethan planned their future, their home, their child, and how they would lead together. One evening, as the sun set, Lyra and Ethan stood at the palace gate. The sky was painted in red and purple. Lyra looked at Ethan and said she felt stronger than ever before. Ethan reached for the silver star she had given him and held it in his hand. He promised that no matter what happened, they would face it together. And so, in that quiet moment, with stars above and gardens below, Lyra and Ethan dreamed of the life they would build, a life full of hope, love, and unity between two worlds. Ethan woke before dawn, his mind restless. Today was a day he had looked forward to and yet feared. Lyra had asked him to stay at her side when their child was born. He felt joy and worry all at once. He dressed in simple clothes and left his room. The palace was quiet, and the sky above was pink and gold. Lyra waited in her chamber, her chair floating near a window that looked out at the city. She wore a pale blue gown. The healers stood by. One held a small device for the birth, another held supplies. Lyra closed her eyes and breathed slowly. Ethan entered and knelt beside her. He took her hand and she smiled softly. After a few hours of waiting, the palace filled with soft music played by robots that Lyra had repaired. The notes were gentle, meant to calm everyone. In the audience room, Roland, Claire, and several council members stood quietly. Outside, people watched from the courtyard, hopeful and anxious. Suddenly, Lyra cried out and the healers rushed to her side. Ethan held her hand firmly. He whispered words of courage, telling her she was strong and loved. Lyra nodded, her face shining with effort and hope. As the lights dimmed and the music slowed, a soft cry echoed through the room. Ethan felt tears fall silently down his cheeks. He looked at Lyra, whose eyes glowed with joy and relief. Their baby, a small child with pale blue skin and dark hair, lay in Lyra's arms. The healers placed the child in Ethan's arms. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him as he held the tiny being. The child opened dark eyes and looked at Ethan as if recognizing him. Ethan felt his heart swell with love and responsibility. Lyra smiled and touched Ethan's shoulder. She said, "We have hope again." Ethan nodded, feeling a strength he had never known before. News of the birth spread quickly. The palace gates opened, and the people entered to see the child who would unite their worlds. They bowed and cheered softly, careful not to disturb the new family. Roland stepped forward and presented a silver star, the same kind Ethan had once held, to the child. Claire gave a seed from the first garden they planted. Lyra spoke to the crowd in her gentle voice. She said their child was a symbol of unity, hope, and love between humans and aliens. She promised to guide their world toward peace and cooperation. Ethan stood by her, holding their baby close to his chest. After the ceremony, Ethan and Lyra returned to their chamber. They sat near the window, looking out at the city. Ethan cradled the child, who slept peacefully. Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. They felt a quiet joy spread through them. Over the next days, the palace changed. Children laughed in the halls as Lyra and Ethan let them visit the newborn. The machines sang songs of greeting. Gardens grew brighter, and new buildings rose to help the people. Ethan taught the children how to draw pictures of Earth and alien worlds. Lyra taught them songs from her world. Even the doubters began to smile when they saw the child and the joy she brought. Roland and Claire worked together to help guide the council. They said the future was bright because of Ethan and Lyra's love and bravery. Every evening, Ethan and Lyra walked in the garden with their child. They held her and showed her the blue flowers and glowing plants. The child giggled when Ethan spun her gently. Lyra watched, her eyes full of love. Sometimes Ethan remembered his life on Earth, his family, his old friends, and the ship crash that brought him here. He realized that fate had led him to Lyra, and he would not change a thing. Lyra also remembered her life before the crash and the months of darkness she had faced. She felt gratitude for Ethan's kindness and strength. She knew that her people would grow strong again under their joint care. The day came when the child's first steps were taken. Lyra and Ethan stood at her side as she wobbled and reached out for Ethan's hand. She took a step, then another, and fell into Ethan's arms. He laughed and spun her, and Lyra clapped and cheered. This moment became a story told across the planet. People spoke of the first child of two worlds, walking with hope in her steps. Leaders from other lands heard and sent messages of friendship. Ethan and Lyra prayed that their child would grow up to be a bridge between worlds. They taught her both languages and traditions. They told her stories of Earth's forests, oceans, and cities, and of her own people's stars and history. Every year, on the day the child was born, the people held a festival in the palace square. Robots played music, and people danced under lanterns. Ethan and Lyra watched their daughter laugh among other children. They held hands and smiled. Decades passed, and their child grew into a wise leader. Ethan and Lyra grew older, but stayed close. They guided the planet through challenges and joys. The child, now grown, ruled with kindness and strength, a living symbol of unity. In the end, Ethan and Lyra sat together in the palace garden, their hair silver and lines on their faces. They held hands and looked at the city that bloomed before them. Their love had changed a world, and their child's laughter echoed in their hearts. Eternal hope had been born that day, and it grew as the stars shone over the united worlds. Ethan smiled at Lyra, and she smiled back. Together, they had built a future full of love, unity, and endless possibilities.